Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Connecting the Field and Back Office, Solving Supply Chain Disruptions. If you have technical or content-related questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A box and we will address them. Closed captioning is available by hovering over the CC button located at the bottom of the screen. To access today's resource materials, simply select the Docs tab on the right-hand side of the screen. This presentation is being recorded and will be sent to all registrants post-webinar. Now I would like to introduce today's first presenter, David Spaker. David is the Industry Senior Director of Engineering and Construction at Argano. David, welcome. You may now begin.
Well, welcome. Thank you, everybody. And really excited to be presenting this solution to you today because I really feel it's a revolutionary solution for any companies that execute very large projects, especially capital projects. In that we truly believe that this solution, there's nothing else out there in the industry, that this solution streamlines everything from engineering through design through operations in the back office, and we'll show you that later. Just as a couple introductions, Jason Andrews is our solution architect who actually architected this solution. He'll do a little introduction of himself. I'm Dave Spaker. I'm a senior industry director here at Argano for both our construction industries and our professional services industries. And I've been helping clients implement solutions like this for the last, say, 30 years or so. And then prior to, and I've been with Argano for about 7 years. Prior to Argano, I was VP of IT at Skanska USA for about 9 years. Scott Davis is also the architect at Oracle, and he will be presenting the Oracle Unifier portion of this presentation. He'll provide some more information about himself. Yeah, Argano has been around, an Oracle business partner for a little over 25 years. We can help you implement every aspect of Oracle Cloud applications, from ERP to EPM to HCM, customer experience or CX, as well as EPM. We have about a little over 800 people within our practice that are Oracle certified and we're Oracle professionals. Been doing it for years. Over 1,000 Oracle implementations, and I just wanted to point out that all Oracle partners have a third party. Third party that rates the performance of the company, and that's that provider score, and ours is at 86. The scores range between -100 and 100, and most Oracle partners are within the 40, around the 40 range. So we are much higher than most, and that really attests to successful implementations and our clients' willingness to provide references. This is just a quick slide of some of other companies that we are actually performing Oracle implementations for, that have project delivered solutions. And there's another one as well, select clients. And here's some of the typical issues that we see. Oh, did it forward? Okay. Okay, sorry. Now I'll turn over the presentation to Jason Andrews, our architect. He will explain the business problems that we see out there in the industry, and then walk you through the solution. Thank you. Jason.
Thanks, David. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Jason Andrews, Senior Vice President of Solutions here at Argonaut. So as Dave said, I head up all of our solution architects here at Argonaut, covering across all of the Oracle product set that we provide, as Dave said, across the entire product set. Been with Argonaut for over 19 years, coming up 20 years. And working in the Oracle ecosphere for about 30 years. So I've been used to the product set for a good while now. And also a lot of my experiences have come from the engineering construction and high complexity project space. So kind of to kick this off, we wanted to identify the business problem of the solution that we're actually trying to solve. So a number of things, come to mind when you're thinking about the, projects that both encompass field operations, and materials in the back office. A lot of the challenges that we see is the ad hoc changes that are happening potentially in the field are not represented back in the project, and vice versa. The issues that you're seeing or the changes that are happening in the project schedule are not automatically getting pushed back into the back office and therefore into the material schedule, causing issues around material availability, material receipts, and or material arriving on site earlier than expected and costing you money. Project managers, superintendents, subcontractors are often lacking that up-to-date information that's being driven from either the project schedule in terms of what materials should be delivered and when, and or and materials arriving and what does that relate to the actual project schedule. So the people on the ground, the project managers, the superintendents on the ground are not really in line with what's happening in from the back office in your materials plan and your procurement plan. And then lastly, it's very common for project-based organizations to manage all of this data completely separately. So there are systems that are being used in the front office and in the field, things like Primavera P6, Oracle Primavera Cloud, and Unifier from a field operations perspective are disconnected from what's going on in the back office with your ERP systems, your material systems, your procurement systems. And what that means is the actual connection that happens there is done via emails, it's done via exchange of spreadsheets, by chat messages, and is not a truly connected front to back office. If we take that one level down in terms of what does that mean to each of the personas or the areas of the business that are being executed, if we look at supply chain, material shortages can cause issues, based, back into the projects themselves. So as we see materials not being received on site, that isn't necessarily automatically updating the project schedule so that we know to make some adjustments. The project managers, are not getting notified when there are supply chain challenges. They assume things are going well until it's too late. That can also, the changes, if you will, in project schedule, not feeding back into the back office and into the procurement schedule, can also see a kind of an adverse on-time delivery performance. Because those date changes are not known quick enough, the vendors cannot actually, adjust their schedules accordingly, again, causing that poor on-time delivery. I'm not going to read through all of these, just some examples. Into the project management side of things, we've talked about this, the ability to manage resources, not just within a project, but take a look at those resources across projects. So when you think about materials and you think about the types of materials that you're procuring, some of them are very much specific to a project. Others of them are more bulk. And the ability to manage that across multiple projects obviously provides that additional procurement power, that buying power you can need to reduce overall costs. If you're connecting to manufacturing, not just kind of material consumption, understanding manufacturing issues that are happening in back of the manufacturing plant, not necessarily always updating and reflecting in the schedule can cause those issues as well. And lastly, when we think about finance, what does this mean overall? Well, if you don't have that succinct capability and visualization across the enterprise, quite often that can lead to things like late fees. If my projects are running late, a lack of visibility on actual costs when they're actually being incurred on job sites, lack of visibility around when those costs are going to be incurred. So committed costs turning into actual costs, and potentially at the end of the day causing challenges with billing projects, so the revenue side of things overall can cause higher costs. So as we think about the solution that we're preparing to show you guys right now, and if you think about the business problem that we're addressing, there are a number of different industries that that actually can take advantage of this solution. Really all the way through from construction, of course, being a large one. So this is large scale construction projects, or I would say anything that is multiple months or above in projects and that have materials as part of the key factor that goes into the project, this solution can help with. So that includes construction, manufacturing, where you do a lot of engineer to order type solutions, where there's maybe a back end manufacturing and then an installation process that happens, down the line. Communications and data centers, so where you've got construction and equipment having to work together to get to site at the right time for that installation process. Oil and gas, a lot of cases, if you're looking at plant turnarounds, there is materials, there's equipment, as well as resources as people that need to be there at the same time to either build or maintain those those plants. So really, if you think about any industry set that has more complex projects that factor in materials and they need to connect together, that's what this solution can help you help solve. So what is the solution itself? What have we built out to help solve the problem that we mentioned earlier on in the webinar? Well, so let's take a look at what I'll class as the happy path when you're thinking about a material demand to supply flow in a project's environment. If I start with the very beginning of the project at that engineering design level, there is the bill of materials coming in to the engineering design. We capture all of that information together. We bucket it up into packages that we want to actually procure against. The project team do that bucketing. They bucket it up. They send that information to the procurement team. The procurement team then creates the purchase orders, creates the procurement, as it were, to the vendors. The vendors can go execute against that schedule, and then they provide the materials and deliver to the construction team. The construction team installs and consumes those materials. As we think about things and from a project standpoint, so one of the things you're going to need to factor in, of course, once that actually happens, the procurement team actually procure those materials. They need to feed back that information to the project team to say, hey, yes, those purchase orders have been sent. The materials are on the way, and this is when they're due. So if there's any changes in that schedule, that it can go be updated against the project schedule itself. The other thing you may have to factor in, especially with these more complex projects, is you may be asking a vendor to say, to produce something for you that is specific to the project. You may be constructing, maybe building something that's specific to the project on the same node. So what you need is information back from the vendor to say, this is what this specific product is. Here are the identifiers that you'll be tracking them by, and this is where I can actually provide it to you. That's what we call tagged items in our scenario. So these are materials that are very specific to the project. That information needs to get fed back into the project team and ultimately into the project plan as to when those materials are going to be delivered and when they can be available. That may, of course, adjust the overall plan based on what the vendor can supply. The other thing, of course, is the day-to-day stuff happens. Goods get received as per the schedule. There may be challenges. There may be shortages that the vendor may not be able to supply everything that you need. And what does that mean about, going back to the procurement team? What does that mean about going back to the project to understand what you're still lacking materials? You could have quality issues. You may receive the materials, the equipment on site, and there may be challenges. It may not be usable, or it all may not be usable. Again, that information needs to be fed back to the project so that you understand what's still outstanding from a planning perspective. So this kind of the simple happy path and then into what actually happens on a day-to-day basis. A lot of this is what we're trying to actually solve as part of the overall solution. So what is the solution itself? What we're calling project-driven supply chain. It's made up of two key Oracle product sets. Really three when you layer in the scheduling part on top of Unifier, which would be either Oracle Primavera Cloud or Oracle P6, Oracle Primavera P6. But the key solution that we built out is actually looking at Unifier and the Fusion product set in the background. And if you look across what we've built out here, we've broken up, let's call it the project flow, into three key chunks. Project initiation. So which typical activities are happening at project initiation? And what is the integration flows that we have built out between Unifier and Fusion, and the configurations we've built out in Unifier and Fusion to support that initiation flow? So for example, if we start in Unifier, the way that we built the product out currently, and we're open to conversations, by the way, projects are initiated in Unifier. So for two reasons. Typically, you have an engineering firm involved that might be producing bills and materials for you. You want to import that information into Unifier. Unifier has that capability to import that information. Typically, you're bucketing those materials into packages, into work packages, and that's part of the project setup within Unifier itself. So when we create projects in Unifier, those are then integrated down in the back office into Fusion so that you can capture materials against that project, and also cost, obviously, you'll see later on, against that project as the project flows through. Engineering materials are pulled into Unifier, and they're also pushed down into Fusion's product data hub, part of the product management solution, which can then track, the attribution against those products, which project they're going against, and any kind of key procurement and planning information that we need. On the vendor management side of things, everything is driven from Fusion. Fusion has an inherent vendor management solution, including things like supplier qualification management, RFP management, vendor registration, and those kind of processes are inherent within the Fusion product set, including a portal, a vendor portal. So vendors are initiated in Fusion and then pushed up to Unifier for visibility purposes as things progress on. In that central bucket there, what we're calling project planning and long-term procurement, this to me is where the rubber really meets the road with this solution. This is where the value really comes into play. So I mentioned before that we're breaking up the bill of materials into work packages, and we're using the methodology of advanced work package management in the background here. But by the way, it's really just a way to chunk up the materials into when you feel they're going to be used, so that we can plan for them and then replan as things change. So the long-term schedule is built out in Unifier using a construction work packages. That's what CWP is here. So we chunk things up into construction work packages. Those have a date against them, which gives you that longer-term visibility of when the materials are required. Those are fed down into the supply chain side of things as forecasts, which we can then execute planning against. Individual material requests, ad hoc material requests, can also be plugged into Fusion, which will come down into Unifier, which will come down into Fusion as purchase orders, which will obviously then be seen as supply from a planning perspective. Within Fusion, we are executing supply chain planning. So the big part here is having the project demand from those schedules that are in Unifier, which are driven by OPC and P6, are driving the supply plan that you're putting together for procurement and or manufacturing. Okay. Obviously, the financial management is happening along the way. So as you're procuring materials, you have commitment accounting happening against the projects, actual receipts, you get turned into actual costs that are coming into the project itself. The RFP process is initiated within Fusion, and that can be from planning. So if there's requirements that come out that, from planning that you would want to push through into an RFP process to get the better costs from your vendors, that's initiated in Fusion. The visibility is pushed up into Unifier so that the field operations have one place to go and see what's happening. So Unifier becomes that field operations centric area. The Fusion becomes the back office planning and execution area. And then the last bucket, if you will, is the execution side of things. So a number of different things are happening within this chunk of the project. The IWP, which is the installation work packages, that's the very granular schedule that's happening for the consumption of materials. So we have long-term planning using the construction work packages, short-term planning using installation work packages, and those become work orders within the Fusion system, which drive demand and also consumption. Material receiving can happen in Unifier and then pushes down into Fusion. Ad hoc material requests happen in Unifier, can just basically be just a cost that gets applied to Fusion from a costing perspective. And of course, material consumption against those work orders all pushes down into Fusion for the costing and the billing side of things, as well as things change, the iterative supply chain planning that's happening. So this end-to-end solution is what we put together, as an integrated system and a set of flows. So at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Scott to talk a little bit about, there's two portions of the solution that I just outlined. The first portion at the top end here is the Unifier solution. Scott Davis from Oracle will introduce himself, and he'll talk a little bit about what the Unifier solution does in general, but also what specifically we've done as part of this solution to configure and create the system you just flowed. I will then talk a little bit about the Fusion side of things, and we'll work our way through to the end. Scott, hand over to you.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Davis here. I am a solution consultant within the construction engineering business unit within Oracle. I've been with Oracle for 14 years now. I've had the joy of working with Argano for the past couple of years on the solution that Jason was just describing. I specialize in a couple of different applications within our portfolio, one of those being, of course, Unifier that I'm going to talk about here in just a moment, but also our scheduling application that we've had for decades now, Primavera P6, came from industry using that product in a variety of different ways. So let's talk a little bit about Unifier. So I'm just going to move forward here. And I'm actually going to go back, Jason, to one of your slides just to kind of describe, go back to some of the points that you were making earlier around how we were handling this with Unifier. But Unifier is our 100% web-based application solution for managing and executing projects. We acquired this solution back in 2012. And the reason why we acquired this was to include something in our portfolio of being able to bring all information that's needed for managing a project into one area for the project team to use. And that's the reason why the product is called Unifier. We're unifying all this information together, all the things that Jason was just talking about earlier around the AWP solution is built around what we call business processes. Okay, and those business processes could be a form that an end user could fill out, could possibly have a workflow like you see here in the screenshot where I have a workflow depicted that would allow that business process, that record within that business process to move forward through an approval process, for instance. And so what we did working as a team on the solution is we configured business processes to be able to do the things like Jason was describing earlier. So I'm just going to back up a couple slides here. The items that you see up here at the top underneath the unifier category, each one of those is satisfied by using a business process to house that information, right? So when Jason's talking about kicking off an RFP over in Fusion, well, we can bring that information over into Unifier for the project team to be able to see that inside of a business process. And that just prevents them from having to go into two different places to get that type of information. What we're doing with Unifier is we're presenting what the project team needs to see, whether it's originated in Unifier, like creating that project like Jason mentioned before, or developing an engineering BOM. Those types of things, we can actually develop all that information inside of Unifier using these business processes, or we can pass data over from Fusion into these business processes for this to visualize inside the application, which we can also then report on it inside the application as well. You'll see here in the screenshot a typical dashboard that we have inside of Unifier that we're able to configure inside the application. So when we're talking about configuration, we're talking about being able to develop a business process with its workflow, as well as the reports around that, like these dashboards, all within the tool. And it doesn't require any kind of programming capabilities to be able to do that. It's all configuration within the application. And so when we were deciding on how we wanted to build out this methodology, these are the main categories that we have highlighted over here on the left-hand side that we basically built this solution around. So creating workflows, capturing deliverables, being able to track any changes against those deliverables, and creating different types of packages, like a construction work package that's tied to a construction work area. All those different types of things we were able to build inside the solution to be able to manage the overall AWP process that Jason is talking through with you folks today. So, and the last thing that I'll share here is that within our overall platform, we have Oracle Primavera has invested heavily into making it easy for us to deploy Unifier. Over the years, we've developed business processes for our customers to utilize in a pre-configured format, and then be able to use that right out of the box, so to speak, and to be able to deploy Unifier with solutions like we're talking about today, right? Now, what we've developed for AWP is outside this norm that I'm talking about right here, these pre-configured business processes. But what we typically find is we have customers that utilize these pre-configured BPs, like, for instance, budget changes, contracts, purchase orders, change orders. All those are different types of examples of what we have included in our pre-configured business process that we can then continue on and build additional business processes based off of the customer need. And we can alter the ones that we offer as a pre-configured solution as well. And the reason why that's powerful is that it allows us to be able to tailor make the solution paired with Fusion for our customers to be able to utilize it to how they want to manage their business. We're not dictating to you how you're going to manage your business with our solution. We're allowing you to determine how you want to manage your business within our solution. So the last thing that I'll end on my piece here is that it's all offered in our cloud on a secure network. Everything is high availability within our environment. So it's delivered in our Oracle Cloud for our customers as a turnkey solution. So I appreciate everybody's time today. And Jason, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Scott. So Scott walked you through the Oracle Primavera solutions that we're using. I'm going to walk you through the Fusion solution. Let's call it the back office solutions that we're using as part of this overall end-to-end solution for project-driven supply chain. So from an Oracle Fusion perspective, the key set of functionality, it really is a set of functionality that we're utilizing, is called project-driven supply chain. The main kind of aspects of this come from different areas of the solution being striped with project information. So primarily what we're looking at in our solution is that material procurement and management with manufacturing or construction together, if you will. And of course, contract revenue and billing as we look at the project side of things. So what makes this different from other solutions is that everything that we do from a supply chain perspective and a project perspective is done with a project attribution in mind. And within Fusion, there's actually 3 attributes we look at. We call it the project ID, the task or the activity, very similar to any kind of project management solution, and then what we call expenditure type. So what type of material is it? Some people, kind of like the Costco type scenario. Is it material? Is it services? Is it equipment? Whatever it might be. So there, from a supply chain solution perspective, there are a number of different pieces that we're actually factoring in. And this is kind of a visualization of the supply chain suite. And really all of the areas that we're using are part of the solution, except for what I'll call the order management side of things. And that can factor in later on when we get into shipping, etc. But typically, the difference between what we built out here and what you'll see in kind of the core Fusion solution is we're driving the demand from a project and the project schedule versus an order. We don't need the order to do that. And that's been one of the challenges beforehand. So in the idea to commercialize side of things, that's where we're using the product management side of things. Plan to produce, that's where the supply chain planning sides come in. Source to settle, obviously, is all of the procurement solutions with inventory as well. And the maintain to optimize will also be manufacturing. The initial solution utilizes maintenance work orders to consume material and layer in demand for material without necessarily producing. So when you're more of an installation process, you don't necessarily build something that you're then going to, in a factory that you're then going to ship. With manufacturing, that would be traditional manufacturing work orders, again, all striped with this project and task and expenditure type. So in plan to produce, the main areas that we're using is the supply planning functionality. And of course, it includes inventory and costing as well. But really, from this perspective, what we're doing is we are, based on forecasts that are generated coming out of the project, we are planning those materials that are required. And by the way, one of the questions we quite often have is this materials only and consumable materials only, or is this equipment? How do I schedule equipment? The way that equipment's dealt with within Fusion is it's tracked using inventory. So we can also plan it using inventory as well. What quantity of a material of equipment units do I need as part of this plan, as part of this schedule? On the source to settle side, it's really the end-to-end suite, as you might expect, from supplier management through sourcing and contracts, subcontract contracts, self-service procurement for ad hoc procurement that's been driven from the back office versus from the front office or from the field, obviously purchasing, and then obviously the actual payable side of things, all connected into projects. And then lastly, on the maintenance side of things, really here, and maintenance can be used in twofold as part of the solution. It's a way to consume material, of course, consume material that we're using against an installation work package, and drive demand for that material against that installation work package where the dates are changing or are driven from the actual project itself, that is the scheduled project from P6 or OPC. But we can also use maintenance, of course, to maintain the equipment, which is obviously part of that end-to-end solution. And then lastly, of course, this all folds together with the project side of things. Now, what we're doing is we're utilizing Unifier to do all of the execution and management side of a project, as you saw before. So the workflows, working with subcontractors, working with the owners, connection to the field operations staff, that's all Unifier, because that's where it's strong. On the back office side of things, we're using all of the cost management and the billing management. And if you're building something, the ability to, turn the cost side of a project into an asset if it's an asset that you're going to own and then potentially operate later. Those are the pieces that we're focusing in on from an Oracle project management solution set. The other side of this, as I mentioned before, is the way that this module integrates in with inventory, with procurement, with supply chain planning, and manufacturing, using those attributes of project task and expenditure type to stripe the plan all the way through. Okay, so here's a couple of things to take you down to the next level. One of the things that we've done as part of this solution that we can share to anyone, to a broader audience, and, we can take you guys through it at any kind of pace you want to, is we've built a set of videos that show an end-to-end flow, including all the integrations that we built out between Unifier and Fusion, starting with the creation of a project all the way through to capturing the costs, costs against the project. We're not going to go through all of these today, but basically you've seen a version of this diagram earlier on. Each of the different chunks of the project, if you will, the phases of the project, have a set of integrations against them. This is kind of the high level view. If I take you down to the next level, this is the more, let's call it, busy view, but this is really where all of the actual integrations were actually built out. This is a more granular view of the flow of data that we've built as part of this solution. Essentially, everything that you see that's in kind of that pale yellow is the unifier. Everything you see in the multicolors at the bottom are different Fusion and functions and features. And then the red blocks, the red arrows, are the integrations that we built out. So to give you an example of what we've got from a solution perspective, I'm going to show you a couple of videos that basically walk through a couple of integrations that we've got. One is the creation of a project. And then if we have time at the end of it, we've also got the creation of materials in Unifier and that push down into Product Data Hub in Fusion. So if you look at the kind of the high level view of it, if we drill deeper in that first phase, these are some of those individual integrations that we've built out. So let's go ahead and start with a video showing you what happens when there's a project created in Unifier and how that then flows through into Fusion, and you can see how they connect together. Pass over to Scott, who's going to create a project in Unifier.
All right. So within Unifier, we have our list of projects that we currently have inside the environment. We can easily create one via a template or simply copy an existing one. In this case, we're just going to copy from an existing project shell. I'm going to bring in all of the business processes that are required for managing the projects, as well as their security setup. We're just inputting a few details around the project of the project name, setting it to status, when is it going to start, what currency it wants to use for managing costs, and then we're just saving that new project. Once that new project is created, I'm just going to search for that. There we can see our new project that was just created. Now we're going to create, within the project, we're going to create some construction work areas, CWAs. This is just a business process to track the different construction work areas within the project itself. I'm just going to create a few here on the fly. Construction area that's representing the plant itself. And then we're going to create a construction work area that represents the loadout area for the refinery. Both of those construction work areas are now created. The next step we're going to do is we're going to create some construction work packages that are referencing those construction work areas that we just created. So the first one that we're going to create here represents a construction entrance. The discipline around that's going to be civil. We're going to select our construction work area as our plant. And then we're going to choose what type of craft needs to be associated with this construction work package. In this case, it's the construction entrance. As we input information inside the cell, it populates other cells within the business process. And then we're going to tie this to a particular start date that we're tracking inside of P6. Create one more construction work package. In this case, it's going to reference the loadout area. For our advanced work package discipline, we're going to choose mechanical. Related CWA is going to be our plant. Excuse me, loadout. And then we're going to choose what particular craft we want to use here. So in this case, I'm going to choose a mechanical equipment work craft. And again, we're going to choose start date from our P6 schedule that we're tracking within P6. Now we have our CWA as well as our CWPs within the new project that we just created.
Okay, all right, we'll go back into Fusion now. And we'll go to projects. We'll be looking for project number 37. There it is. We'll drill into that project. You can see it's the Eagle Refinery expansion with Fred Kisner as being the project manager. It's an active project with a start date of 9/4/24, and it's going on through 2042. Project number 37 within the particular project unit, construction inventory and projects, which is set from the templates that we have in the background. We go to the resources. So this again comes from Unifier. Fred Kisner was the project manager and administrator in Unifier. That's created as the project manager and administrator within Fusion, so that Fred Kisner would have access to the project moving forward. Additional data that we pass through into some descriptive flex fields includes the location, as well as project ID information and the fact the source has come from Unifier. We now go into the cost breakdown structure, the financial plan. You can see there we've got the two construction work areas, and we expand out. We've got construction work area 5000, which is the plant, and then we need the actual construction work package, which is construction entrance, and then the loadout, which is a 5200 with our construction work packages for mechanical equipment. Okay, and the planned start date and end date, this is mainly used for costing. So we preset the start date and end dates in the project to the beginning of the project and the end of the project. This allows it to stay open from a costing perspective. When we move into the forecasting side, that's where we pull the dates from Unifier to drive the materials plan. It shows you the integrations that came from project creation from Unifier all the way through into Fusion Cloud. Thank you.
Okay, so that was kind of how we create a project in Unifier, and then how we then push all of that data through into Fusion. Lastly, what we'll show is kind of like the next key portion in that initiation process, which is how we create items in Unifier and then push them down into a key function within Fusion, which is called our product data hub, or really our product information master, but it has additional attribution capabilities.
So in this video, we're going to create items which will start in Unifier and then pass through into Cloud. Initially, we're going to show you that the items don't exist in Cloud. So if we go into product management, go into product information management, and we're going to create two items in Unifier, a bulk item and a tagged item. The bulk items are, expense items that are typically just, consumed automatically. Tagged items that are specifically pushed out to the projects and are very project specific. So let's first of all make sure these items don't exist in Cloud. So we're going to go to Manage Items. And the first one we're going to check and create is a bulk item, a tagged item for some pipe. So let's make sure that doesn't exist. I'm going to check it in Cloud. And you can see there's an older one there, but we're actually going to create one without the X's on it. So we're back in Unifier. We're going to go into a particular project, which is the project we created previously, project 36. And from there, we go into our items. Materials and equipment, and the engineering BOM. So we're starting by creating the engineering BOM, and we'll create two items in the engineering BOM. So first of all, we'll create our tagged item. So we're just going to set the source of the material, because this could come from an external system, of course. We're going to manually create it in this case. And we're going to create our first tagged item. With the model number, same details. We're going to say that it's a tagged item. Obviously, we are going to give it a description. Need to give it a unit measure. So we select one of the key units of measure, and we're going to use meters. And then for how much are we going to use for this particular engineering BOM? So we're going to have 400 meters. Then we need to tag it to the specific construction work area and construction work package. So we're going to tag it to our plant. And then within the plant, the specific construction work package, which is going to be the construction entrance. Okay. We'll submit that part. So that's our tagged item. We're also going to go ahead and create a bulk item against that same project. This is our bulk item, which is some asbestos gasket. Again, we give it the item number, and we'll give it a description. Say that it's a bulk item, which is key. In this case, we're going to have 5,000 eaches. And of course, we're going to tag it to our construction work package and our construction work area, which becomes key later on when we get to supply chain planning. course. There we go. Go into the entrance again. All right, now we'll submit that. And those two items are created. And now what we're going to do is we're going to run the integration, which will push them through into cloud. Krithik is going to run that. It'll run in the background. We're going to run them specifically in this case for this video. Typically, these are scheduled to run, you know, once every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or as often as you like, obviously on demand. So Krithik, once it's run, give us a shout. Usually takes about a minute or so just to run these through. Sonali, I don't see Krithik on. There we go. And it looks like they've actually created them. So there's our tag product, there's our 2-inch pipe. Shows the actual items themselves. It's a purchased item, so we know that. We get down into some of the key details. It's meters, of course. You can see that from the unit of measure. We have a specific cross-reference, which shows the Unifier construction work package and the project ID. So you can see there's the project 36. In manufacturing, there's a couple of key configurations. The first one is it's push. So this is specifically issued to the project because it's the tagged item. So that's come through correctly. We also have them flagged as full lot control because these are specifically lot controlled items. And then when we receive them in, we will specifically log the vendor's lot number against it for that particular tag. So that shows that's why we don't have a starting lot number or a prefix. And then in the supply chain planning area, we have a planner, which is key from a planning perspective. And this is our planner, SCM_IMPL. So that's the tagged item. If we check our bulk item, there'll be some slightly different configurations. Again, they both come in and it's connected to the root item organization as well as the specific organization. There's our item number, there's our description for our 2-inch asbestos gasket. It's a purchased item again, but there'll be some differences now. We get to the specifications. Again, we should have our unifier cross-reference. So there's the construction work package it's against and the project. We get down into the manufacturing side. These are consumed automatically. So these are operation pull. They're basically backflushed items will come through in the work orders, and they're not lot controlled, which is key as well, because these are just bulk items that are going to be costed, planned, but costed to, you know, automatically costed to the project. And again, we'll have a supply chain planner so that we can actually factor them into supply planning. So that shows the integrations where we bring in the engineering bill of materials data from Unifier automatically down into Product Data Hub.
All right, so that showed you a couple of the integration flows that we built out. We've actually built out something in the region of, I think it's 20 different integrations and related demonstration videos to show you how those integrations work in a flow from end to end, which we're happy to share with people should they need to see it. So finally, as we wrap up from here, and then we'll open it up for a little bit of Q&A, when I think about the key benefits and takeaways of the solution that we've built out, there's a number of things that I'd like you guys to take away. First of all, and I think most importantly, it's that integrated field collaboration between the front office, the field, and the back office and planning. To me, that is kind of the key. So from that engineering bill of materials all the way through to procurement and then back again. And then kind of the key thing there is the end-to-end process is managed from the schedule at the top end through either P6 or Oracle Primavera Cloud, down into supply chain planning, consumption of materials, and costing it to the project. The other thing that we've done, of course, is we've utilized the concept of advanced work packages to chunk things up. By the way, that's just a concept we're using, some way you can define to chunk up how you chunk up your project materials. Doesn't have to use that AWP process. It's just the way that we've chunked things up together so that you can have that capability of taking long-term schedule and required materials and turning it into an execution and procurement plan. And then kind of, plugs that information gap between the field and the back office. And that's really what we're trying to do here. And with that, I think I will open it up for any Q&A. Corbin, is there any Q&A that we need to dig into here?
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, there's one question that says, hey, we're a manufacturer, so can the solution include manufacturing work orders?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. When we first built the solution out, as I said, we focused in on that consumption of materials so that we therefore already used the maintenance work orders as the solution to consume materials and drive the plan. We're actually in the process of adding in that manufacturing factor. So it's not just about material consumption, it's about material creation and then shipping it to site. So yes, absolutely.
That's good, and thank you. That's a good response. And really, it kind of leads into the next question, which is about equipment. It says, the question is, can we schedule equipment as well as materials?
Yeah, and I think I alluded to this one as well. Absolutely. I mean, it's a big thing, obviously, when you're installing any kind of product on site, in a construction site in some way, shape, or form. There's usually some form of equipment that's required. As I mentioned previously, the way that Fusion deals with equipment tracking is it uses that those inventory quantities. So we can plan those in the same way as we plan traditional material planning. There are some nuances around that, but it absolutely gives us the ability to schedule and plan.
Excellent. Thank you. One final question. Somebody's asked, if we have a different back-end ERP, can we still use Unifier and these integrations?
Yeah, we've been asked that a few times, actually. My answer to that is, obviously, we can look at it, but this solution has been designed to work Oracle to Oracle, so Oracle Fusion and alongside Unifier. And so the answer is not no, but it would definitely require some key adjustments and modifications to those flows into whatever your backend ERP is. The preferred solution is Oracle to Oracle, of course.
Excellent. And that is the end of the questions that are at the Q&A at this time. Are there any more questions anybody would like to post in the Q&A?
All right. With that, I think I guess we'll close things out here. Thank you everyone for attending. Key contacts you can see here on the screen for those who want to contact us about the solution. Any of the folks that you saw on the webinar today, but there's also one of my architects, Bobby Hudlick, is also heavily involved in this. And with that, thank you very much for your attendance, and I believe this is going to be made available as posted onto the website afterwards. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.